So today, we're going to dig into a really startling contrast in Nigeria's leadership. It's a story that starts with founders who were, barely out of their teens, and it ends with a massive question. What on earth happened? You'll want to stick around because the proposed solution involves nothing short of a tech revolution.
To really get what's happening in Nigeria now, you've got to go back to the beginning. And this is where things get, well, pretty surprising. The founders of the modern nation, the people you're seeing here, they weren't these old seasoned veterans. By today's standards, they were incredibly young.
So let's start there, in that first era, a nation of youth. Because back then, if you look at the historical record, being young wasn't some kind of barrier to holding real power. Honestly, in a lot of ways, it was practically a requirement.
And the thing that's so striking here is the pattern. It's so consistent. The main figures who are leading the charge for independence, people like Awolowo, Bello, Balewa, they were all in their 30s. And then you have Enahoro and Okoti-Ibo, both just 27 years old. This wasn't a fluke. This was the norm for leadership.
And you know what? This trend didn't stop. It actually kicked into high gear when the country shifted to military rule in 1966. The new power players were even younger. The head of state, Yakubu Gowon, was only 32. Murtala Muhammad was 28. Babangida was 25. And Sani Abacha, he was just 23 years old. 23.
And it wasn't just the top dogs either. Get this. MT Mubu was appointed Nigeria's foreign affairs minister at just 23. I mean, think about that for a second. He was representing the entire nation on the world stage before he was even old enough to turn 24.
Okay, so that was then, which brings us crashing into the present day and a whole generation's worth of questions. The analysis we're looking at now pivots to ask what in the world happened to that legacy, to all that youthful energy, and it does it by posing some really sharp questions.
And here's the contrast. The exact same age bracket that once ran the entire country is now, according to this analysis, facing a completely different reality. It all starts with this very basic question about just trying to find a job.
And the questions keep coming, pointing to this new reality of, well, dependency. The generation that once held the highest offices in the land is now, in many cases, still financially reliant on their parents.
And this is the real political gut punch. Forget being head of state at 32. The sources ask why this same age group often isn't even seen as qualified enough to lead the youth wings of the major political parties. The shift is just dramatic.
When you put it all side by side like this, the difference is just staggering. The past was about leading a nation. The present reality for that same age group, as described here, is just trying to get through the first few steps of adult life.
So, what happened? How did we get from there to here? This next section, which we've pulled directly from our source material, tries to diagnose the root causes of this massive disconnect between the then and the now.
The analysis points to what it calls 7 deadly factors. And it's not just one thing, right? It's this whole tangled web of systemic problems. We're talking everything from a lack of visionary leaders and deep-seated corruption, all the way to an education system that just isn't cutting it anymore.
And the sources, well, they don't pull any punches. They argue that this situation is not an accident. It's not just a natural evolution. The core argument is right here in this powerful quote, that Nigeria's youth have been systematically silenced.
So how does this silencing actually work in practice? Well, the source material breaks it down into a few key mechanisms. First, there's this conditioned fear of authority. Then you have cultural norms that basically tell you not to challenge your elders. Add to that an education system that rewards memorizing facts over thinking for yourself. And finally, you've got this constant economic pressure that forces you to just focus on surviving day to day.
Okay, so after all that pretty grim diagnosis, the analysis shifts gears and starts talking about a solution. And it's probably not what you're thinking. The proposal is for what's being called a silent revolution, one that's powered entirely by technology.
The big idea here is a brand new digital ecosystem. It's built on the blockchain, which just means it isn't controlled by any single company or government. It's called Anonymous Youth Chain, or Youth Chain for short. The whole concept is to create a new platform totally outside of those old, broken systems.
Now, to really get Youth Chain, you have to understand this one key idea, a DAO. It stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Don't let the name scare you off. It's actually a pretty simple concept. Just think of it like a digital co-op, where the rules are all written in code for everyone to see, and it's controlled by the members, not by some CEO or government official.
So what does this youth chain ecosystem actually look like? In practice, how would it function day to day to empower the very people it's designed for? Let's break it all down.
Okay, so the platform is really built on 6 main pillars. It all starts with the Liberty Hub, that's for education and debate. It's powered by a crypto token called AYC, which acts as both a reward for participating and as your ballot for voting. And the whole thing is governed by that DAO structure we just talked about, which makes sure the community is in charge. Then you've got a secure voting system, community profiles, and key partnerships to tie it all together.
And the real genius of the design here, according to the proposal, is super simple. It rewards you for getting involved. If you create educational content, you get rewarded. If you share good ideas or vote on proposals, you get rewarded. The system is built so that the more active you are, the more influence you have. In this ecosystem, engagement is basically the currency.
But here's the thing. This isn't just some abstract tech project. The whole point is to connect this digital world to a very real-world, very tangible goal, a nationwide campaign that has its sights set squarely on the 2027 election cycle.
The campaign has a name that is clear, ambitious, and really captures its entire purpose: Youth Rise Nigeria 2027. This is the part where the digital platform is supposed to translate directly into political action on the ground.
And listen to these goals. They are not messing around. The plan is to empower 10 million young people, teach them about this new kind of governance, and then mobilize them for real-world action. And the ultimate goal? To launch a completely new, youth-led political party just in time for the 2027 elections. Which brings us to the big, provocative question that this whole analysis leaves us with. After seeing this stark contrast between a past full of young leaders and a present full of systemic barriers, could this actually be the answer? Could a decentralized, transparent system built on the blockchain really be the catalyst that sparks a revival of youth leadership in Nigeria? The proposal argues yes, but the question, for now, is left hanging in the air.